Hi everyone, Beth here. I am solo today. Emma has some very exciting things happening this week. Her middle child, her sweet and amazing autistic daughter, is graduating high school. I want to give a shout out to them. I want to be the first to say congratulations, sweet, amazing girl. I am so grateful that I have gotten to be part of your life and that I have been able to watch you grow. I missed your hugs, questions, and laugh. You are brave, strong, capable, and one of the sweetest souls I have ever met. We wish we could be with you this week and see you graduate, but as you know, we have my daughter's graduation a few days later. We love you. And to Emma, amazing job being the shield, the advocate, and educator to this special soul. You did so good. Okay. Now that I've gotten myself super emotional, and just so you know, I practiced that like 5 times trying to not be so emotional, so you get what you get. So sorry. Let me explain today's format. You may not know that I have another podcast, Homeschool Vibe. It is a different style podcast than Peaceful Homeschool. It has shorter form style episodes. Today I'm sharing 2 of my Homeschool Vibe episodes on socialization. These views are mine and not necessarily Emma's, but too bad, so sad, she isn't here to share her thoughts. But we do have episode 5, where she does share her thoughts on socialization, so you still get to have both sides if you want to hear them all. Links will be in the show notes to Homeschool Vibe, as well as episode 5 of Peaceful Homeschool. If you enjoy the short form, go ahead and subscribe to Homeschool Vibe as well, because if you're like me, you can't have too many podcasts ready to go, so... One more thing, we have an exciting new feature. We have a fan page where you can find all of our links to social medias, the coolest feature though is that you can submit questions to us that may be used in an episode of Peaceful Homeschool. It's really neat, so give it a try. We also want to thank all of you who have taken the time to write such kind reviews. It's really touching to us to know that we have been helpful in your journey. That is why we do what we do, and we truly, truly want you and your children to enjoy this homeschooling journey. It is such an amazing experience, and I love it. It's been amazing. So we just want to help make sure that you get to enjoy it like we have. So enjoy the show and let us know what you think. Welcome to the Homeschool Vibe podcast. I am super excited that you're here, and this is our 2nd episode. And today we're talking about one of the biggie questions that new homeschoolers or people considering homeschooling have. And the big question seems to be about socialization. So many people are worried about how their kids might turn out if they're homeschooled. They might worry, will their kid be weird? Will they not be able to talk to people, look people in the eye when they're speaking, all of those things. Or they might be worried, like, what if they don't have any friends? All of that stuff. That has been throughout all my years of homeschooling my kids, the one question that people consistently have for me. And I've gotten some funny questions, do they get to go out? I've had questions like, do they get to go outside? What do they do all day? How will they get bullied? Which is a really funny question to me. I don't know why people think that you would have to be bullied to be a functional, happy adult someday, but you know. But anyway, it was just lots of funny questions. So I thought I would address that today. I'm going to make this a 2-parter because I wanted to just kind of do an overview about just socialization in general, but then I want to do another episode, a second one on homeschooling through like the middle school and high school years. I mean, socializing through that time. So I'd like to just start off with what I've just kind of observed throughout the years. And one thing that I've noticed is that we as a culture really seem to undervalue the socialization experience that kids get within a family. Within a family,
We experience conflict, we experience anger, we experience love, forgiveness. We have to learn to apologize. We have to learn to work together. We have to learn how to deal with being frustrated with each other. All of those things. And when you think about that, learning how to deal with that and learning how to work together and work through all those really hard things, I personally think that is the number one way that children should be socialized. And I just feel like what we end up doing and thinking is that somehow we've come to convince ourselves that being in a classroom all day with kids only your own age, with a teacher and authority that doesn't know you very well, is the way to be properly socialized. And, when I first started homeschooling my kids and I was still in the mindset of, public school was the best way to do something to educate my kids, I wasn't even thinking straight. And I was thinking, oh, my kids are going to miss out by not being stuck in a classroom with a bunch of kids their own age. And what I started realizing is how kind of backwards it actually is when you think about it. When you think about these kids being put into a classroom of kids all their own age from the same neighborhood, probably from their same cultural background, pretty much, very similar, probably. Why would we as adults think that is the best way to properly socialize our children? If you think about what socialization should be, it should be meeting people of all ages. It should be meeting people from all different religious backgrounds, different races, different political views, people from all over everything, like from all the different types of people in this world, and meeting people from different countries and cultures, all of those things. To me, that is socialization. That is like learning to love and learning to get along with people that aren't from your same neighborhood, that aren't your same age, they don't go to the same church, or they don't vote for the same people, whatever it is. When we put ourselves in these little bubbles and then we think that that's proper socialization, I just find that kind of ironic. And it's a little bit funny when we actually really think about it. So in homeschooling, my kids have been able to really learn from dealing with conflict within our own home, like with each other, and learning to get along when we're frustrated, and learning to forgive and learning to apologize, because we've had more time together as a family. And I think that that's super important. The other ways we've been able to socialize is by being involved in so many activities. There are so many options for homeschoolers these days. And so the ways that we did that, we were involved in a homeschool group, which we found, and that took a little bit of time, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But we also took lots of different classes, and there are classes you can take from homeschool learning centers, homeschool co-op groups. There are vendors out there that teach classes to homeschoolers specifically, like during the day. Like they might be an art vendor that teaches art classes after school, but they like to also fill up their time during the school hour days. They might have homeschool classes specifically during the day. So there are so many options. The things that we've learned throughout the years are that it is really best to have 3 different social group experiences. Like being involved, we found to be involved in a homeschool group is amazing if you find the right fit. To be involved in some kind of church group or youth group, service group, some kind of club or scouting or something like that. Something separated from the homeschool group. And also then another type of thing like a sport or theater or something else. Like having 3 different groups really, I think, is really kind of the magic number for building confidence, for having a big variety of friend groups. What we did wrong is we kind of just, when we found our homeschool group, we pretty much just relied on that for our social time. and it was awesome. It was really fun. But what I started realizing throughout the years is that we didn't kind of branch out very much. And we even when we would take classes at learning centers or different places, we would sign up to take them with our homeschool group friends. And so when I started realizing that we were kind of making that bubble that I was talking about, that I actually don't love about the public school system, that part of socialization, I kind of made that happen unintentionally with homeschooling. And so I think that just like if your kids were in public school, if they're homeschooled as well, I think that they still, in either case, whether homeschooled or public school, I think having 3 different sources of groups of social experiences. Sorry, my words are not working today. But having like 3 different experience type things, like I said, like just find 3 different things that are separated. That I think worked out for the best. When we didn't do that, and if there was like different times that might be hard, like there might be a little bit of drama or conflict, or just like even when my son just got older and he wanted to meet more kids, which is totally normal as a middle schooler, wanting to meet more friends. And even though he loved his other friends, he still wanted to meet more kids. And that's just the kind of personality he has. And not having that for him wasn't very good. So he was experiencing those feelings that so many kids feel, whether they're public schooled or homeschooled, where when they get to those middle school ages where they start feeling that kind of loneliness feeling that starts kicking in, or isolation feeling. And then what we realized is we needed to kind of branch out more. And once we did that, things got better. And for my daughter, we made sure she was involved in 3 separated groups. Her homeschool friends, she had a learning center, and she's got like her theater group too, and and youth group. So having those different experiences has just built her confidence so much, because she knows she can go into a classroom of people that she doesn't know, and she knows she can take a class and make friends and have fun. Even if she doesn't know anyone in that room, she ends up in the end knowing lots of kids, and that has made a huge difference in her confidence and given it such a boost. And she was, she's really grown a lot and not that shy anymore. But it's just amazing to see the difference for her. Okay, so homeschool groups, I wanted to talk about that. If you have not found a homeschool group yet, I recommend shopping around. Shop for a homeschool group. If you go to a homeschool group and you find some quirky or unusual situations or people, just know that they're all homeschoolers are not that way. Like the first couple groups that we found before we really settled in and found one that we fit really well with were really kind of weird. So just know that there's all different kinds of homeschoolers out there, and most of them are amazing and fun. But if you happen to land in a group where it's not the right fit, or things are really strange or something, just know that you just haven't found the right fit yet, and keep on going. Don't think that all homeschoolers or all homeschool groups are really weird, and don't freak out. Don't worry. Everything's okay. You will find a group that's good for your family. And if you don't have one that you find that's local, just create one. There are so many people homeschooling now that you should be able to start a group with. It might take a couple months to get something going, but you can do this. The homeschool group that we fit in the best, that we really, really liked, was a homeschool group that was very, the rule, it didn't have too many rules, but the rule that it had was that everyone is welcome, as long as they are kind and use kind words, adults and children, and as long as they don't use any foul language or any kind of violence of any kind, adults and kids. And that was the rule. And it was really a neat group, because we had people from all different walks of life that we could just enjoy talking to each other and learning about each other. And it became one of the neatest socialization groups ever because my kids got to experience people from different religions, from different from families with different political views than ours, and all these different people that live different ways. And it was so amazing because we all learned that we can love other people and we can learn to try and understand why they believe differently and why they act differently. And it was really cool. So some of the groups that didn't work were people that had a lot of rules that didn't always make sense and were a little weird. And like one of the places you weren't allowed to nurse your baby at the group. And I thought that was really strange because like you should be able to feed your baby. So I'm like, also dads weren't allowed to go to the group activities, which I found really strange also because in the group that we loved, the dads were, we had dads that were full-time homeschool dads too. And I couldn't imagine like not allowing them to be able to come and bring their children and have their kids have fun with the other kids as well. So for the homeschool group activities, the types of activities we were able to participate in, they did like science fairs, they did spelling bees, they did everything. And sometimes they would do like pajama day at the park, and they did kind of the fun themed days. Like throughout the years, they had yearbooks. We also had like dances and proms when the kids got older. The kids honestly had so much fun in the different groups and the different learning centers and co-ops and all of those things. So I'm going to do another episode on homeschooling through the teen years and the middle school years because I feel like that one is a really important one to address. I learned a lot from my kids, and I want to share with other people the experiences they had and I had so that we can help other people find an easier way than the way we got to where we did. And because I think that the learning lessons we've had are really valuable, and I hope that they can help other people. If you have any questions or things you want addressed in the middle school teen year episode, that'll be the 3rd episode coming out, please email me or find me on Instagram or Facebook at Homeschool Vibe. Look up Homeschool Vibe on homeschoolvibe.com. Or you can search on Instagram and Facebook also. Anyway, I'm so grateful that you listened today, and thank you so much. Welcome to Homeschool Vibe Podcast. This is Beth. I'm your host. I'm a homeschool mom of 2 kids, one a graduate from homeschool and another that is about to start her senior year. This is our 3rd episode, and I'm really glad you're listening today. This episode is a really important one, and one that I wish I had heard prior to my son hitting the middle school age years. This topic today is about socializing in those 11, 12, 13 and up years. There is a difference with socialization when you're getting to that age group and how you would handle it. When they're younger, a great homeschool group and maybe like another program like a youth program or a theater group or sports or something like that is great. When they start getting to those years where they start, getting those really big feelings, it's just such a hard age, especially the junior high, middle school ages. It's hard for every kid, it seems like, most kids. And it's hard whether you're public schooled, homeschooled, wherever you're at, you still have those big feelings. I believe in homeschooling, that the homeschool setup is an easier place for kids to be than it would be to be in public school when you're dealing with those emotions, but they still need help navigating. And the reason they need help navigating is because kids often feel isolated in these years, in this time period of their life. It's very normal. It's very normal. Like I said, it's normal if you're in public school. It's normal if you're in a homeschool to feel those feelings. And as parents, if we understand that that's what's normal and going to happen, even in a homeschool situation, that we need to help them understand their feelings. That's what they need help with. They need to understand that it's totally normal to have feelings of like loneliness or just kind of like confusion about separating from their parents more. All those things are happening. It is totally normal. And what we need to do as parents is be their guide. And just, we need to guide them into making sure that they have multiple friend groups. I made the mistake of just having our homeschool group be our main socialization. And it was a great group, lots of great experiences that we had there. But when things happen in those years, like those middle school years, it happens in the homeschool groups too. There can be drama, and there can be those high emotions can cause some drama. Or there just might not be a big enough group of kids for kids to get to know. And like for my son, he really wanted to meet more people. And he also started feeling those feelings of isolation, but didn't talk about it with me. He didn't understand, like if he had talked to me, this is my fail as a parent. I'm not blaming him. But if I would have had it on my radar, I could have talked to him about it. But he didn't bring it up to me, so I didn't think about it. That he was experiencing feelings of loneliness. And in his mind, he thought it was homeschooling's fault. That homeschooling caused his loneliness. But as an adult talking about it, my husband and I and my son were talking about it. And my husband, who's very outgoing, he was, popular, he had lots of friends, all that stuff, admitted that when he was in the middle school time period that he had loneliness. And he said it was hard, and it's a hard thing to go through in that age. And I think it's just, I experienced it. My husband went to public school. I went to public school. We both experienced it with even very different personalities. So I am more shy than my husband and more quiet. And so I just assumed it was just my personality that would make me feel that way. But my husband, who's the complete opposite, felt the same exact way. So with that experience, we were able to talk to him and say, no, it wasn't homeschooling's fault. It's just a natural part of growing up. And if we can help our kids understand that these are normal feelings and that they would most likely feel them in any situation they're in, because it's this time period of life that just gets you. And and that's why it's such a hard time. And that's why the middle school time period can just be rough. So I want homeschool parents to have that on their radar, that just because they're homeschooling doesn't mean that the kids won't have a rough time during that time period, that they might be confused or not know how to connect with other kids. And I just don't want homeschooling to be blamed by the parents or the kids. That really it's really just a natural thing to feel during this time. And so I was going to talk about that. First off, have that on your radar, that there will be a time period that they might feel extra lonely, and it's just something to work on. It's not something that would go away in public school. Okay, so now let's talk about some other things we need to do. So for socialization in the middle school and high school years, it's the same that I recommended for the younger years, the elementary school years. Have at least three friend groups, 3 sources of socialization. Have 3. That is so important. That are separated. We made the mistake of every time we would sign up for classes or do different things that we did it with our same friends from our homeschool group. So what I recommend is make sure that you have separate groups, like for your kids, because we did experience some drama, and it was really hard for a little while before we got into some other situations. And so in order to avoid that painful experience, it would have been much easier had we already had other social groups for the kids to be involved in. So having like a youth group, sports, theater, service groups, volunteer, like whatever it is, like just make sure you really, really, really go out and find at least 3 different groups for your kids. Really plan it and make sure. That is your job. That's your job to make sure that they have 3 groups of some kind. In some ways, the middle school and high school years get easier as a homeschool parent for the weight of the educational part being on you, because you can kind of outsource some of it as they get older and they can kind of self-lead more. But the part that you really need to be on top of is the socialization part. And some other things that I wish I had on my radar before and that I learned from. So you get the benefit of learning from my mistakes and my poor kid wishing that I had known this before too. So learn from us, learn from our pain so that you can do better for your kids than I did for my firstborn. We did much better for my second, and it's going so much better. So anyway, so these are some things that I wish I had on my radar before, aside from the 3 groups. Okay, so another thing that I didn't consider was that because as homeschool parents, when our kids are in groups and they do their activities, we'll be at the group with the kids, and so the parents are socializing. And we would plan like everything. We'd plan everything for the kids. So we would be like, oh, they want to get together. Let's go to somebody's house and swim, or let's, whatever it was. And we'd plan the food. We'd plan who would get the rides where, how, all of it. And we really ripped the kids off unintentionally by not letting them go through the experience of planning their own social experiences. And so make sure that while you're planning and making sure that they have 3 groups to socialize in, also kind of encourage them to plan things on their own. Of course, they have to check with parents first for what works for everybody, for their schedules, but I really encourage them to plan on their own, to think about like, oh, we're going to have a get together and we have to make sure that we have snacks, or we have to make sure that there are rides to and from and that it works for everybody's schedules. Have them really take the lead and encourage that, because like I didn't do that with my son. And here, my son is extremely outgoing. Like he's very outgoing. He's very social. He's very fun. He can walk in a room and talk to anyone, anytime. And he's very well socialized. But the parts that I missed were things like letting him plan things. I really, really screwed up on that unintentionally. And I want to encourage you to make sure that the kids are planning some of their own activities and planning their own social experiences. It is really, really helpful and important, and it's part of preparing them to be an adult. So the more we can kind of start letting them separate and take charge of their social experiences, the better for them. We want them to grow up and be able to handle things on their own. And that's the goal, right? Our goal isn't to do everything for our kids. Our goal is to raise healthy, good humans. And by allowing them the space to make mistakes, or to forget the snacks, or to forget to plan a ride and learn from it so they can do better as they get older, the better for them. Like we've got to let them figure that stuff out and let them take the lead. Okay, so those were I kind of covered the mistakes I made, but now I wanted to talk about the successes we've had. So after learning from my son that, how to screw it up. So he's really good at teaching me those things. The first kid's really good at that. With my daughter, who's 4 years younger, we were able to really get her into multiple groups. She was able to, we encouraged her to take classes that she didn't know anyone in, and she did not like it at first. She was like, "What are you doing to me?" But after she went a few times and made friends pretty quickly, she started not being so afraid of that. And so she just really got into taking more classes on her own and really had a blast. And she got to meet a bigger variety of kids by doing that, instead of staying in our little bubble that we had been in with my son with our little, our homeschool group. And again, our homeschool group was amazing. Like but it still was, I wasn't doing the job I needed to be doing to make sure he had multiple experiences. So another thing I learned recently, which makes total sense, is that I was listening to a podcast by a psychologist who does attachment parenting also. And what she was talking about is that around age 8, kids start wanting to be separate from their parents. They don't think about that. It's just something that they start naturally doing. So we have to have that on our radar as well. And we need to help them to be able to have some of their wins and feeling like they get to make their own choices in some things, so that they will not feel so rebellious towards us, that instead they'll, as they grow older, we'll be a partner with them, so that we can encourage them and guide them in a way that they don't feel like that we're trying to control them. So I thought that was really interesting advice, and I wanted to share that as well. And I know it talked about 8-year-olds, but it really could encourage people that have the middle schoolers and the high schoolers. And as homeschool parents, sometimes we can really forget, because we're together so often, that we can kind of forget to watch for that separation time and allow it, and let them really kind of take the lead on some of their own things. It makes a huge difference in their confidence. So the other parts of the successes that we've had is both of my kids are well socialized. Like, even though we had a little rough experiences with not having a big enough group or a variety of groups for my son, and not letting him plan things earlier so that he could know how to take the lead on that, he's very well spoken. He is outgoing. He's funny. He's very funny. Makes me laugh every time I see him. He's successful as an adult. He's got his real estate appraiser's license now. He's 21 years old. And that's a hard thing to get, and he did it. And he's been supporting himself for over a year fully, maybe longer than that. He's been doing a really, really good job. And as a 21-year-old living in California, that's a huge deal. So to be able to fully support yourself and be in an apartment, they're expensive right now, and to be able to pay for his own everything, like his insurance, his gas, everything, his cell phone, that's the point of all of this, is to raise successful kids who can do things on their own and be proud of themselves. And I'm very proud of both of my kids. My daughter she's just finished up her junior year of high school, and she finished her first year of dual enrollment classes. She's been taking college courses, and she did very, very well, and she's received 2 scholarships. She's on an improv team and in a theater group, and she's doing fantastic. And she's also just become asked to be a student board member of the Freedoms Foundation. Just make sure you as a parent are managing keeping an eye on their social group experiences, so that they can branch out and have a big variety of kids. You want them to know a big variety of people from different walks of life. You don't want them in a little bubble. You do want them in a safe. When I say that, I mean safe. You don't want people that would go against your beliefs to be pushing anything on them. So you have to still be safe, but you want them to meet a big variety of people in a safe way. Well, I think that wraps up this episode. I'm really grateful that you listened today. Please comment and let me know. You can comment on Facebook or on Instagram, or you can email me at bethleepub@gmail.com. If you have any questions, or if you have suggestions for things that work or didn't work for your family, don't forget to go to homeschoolvibe.com and check out the book. You can get the link there. Find your Homeschool Vibe on Amazon, or you can link through through my website at homeschoolvibe.com. Thank you so much for listening. I'm excited. Thank you. Bye-bye.